So I was able to pull myself out of a reading slump by reading two books about Indian detectives, but two very different books about two very different detectives. One, the first in a new series, which was brand new to me. The other, the fourth book in a series of which I've read the other three books, and I really, really like that series. Hello, everybody. Welcome to and welcome back to my channel, Book Time with Elvis, with me, Mark, and I hope so much you're doing very well. I want to take this opportunity at the beginning to thank my wonderful patrons, people who subscribe to my Patreon channel. They are listed here, and if you should like to join them, then please do check out the link below. So, as I was saying, I read two detective novels that kind of got me over a reading slump. And it does seem a thing for me that so-called cozy mysteries do tend to work magic on me when I get caught in a reading rut. The first book is called The Bangalore Detectives Club by Harini Nagendra. I hope I said her name right because she makes a big point in the book about the Britishers mispronouncing Indian names, so I hope I did justice to that. Um, and I read this with the wonderful Shelley Swearingen. We read that together, just on the off chance we both wanted to read it, and she had it, so I said, yeah, all right, I'll read it with her. Now, this is, I think, Nagendra's debut novel, and it's the first in a series because the second one has already been published. It follows the adventures of a husband and wife team, but primarily the wife, I can say, Kaveri and Ramu. Kaveri is a young woman who marries a glamorous doctor just a few years older than her. And when I say young, I mean she's pretty young. I think she's 19, maybe, when the book starts, something like that. And she moves to live with him, and she's moves to Bangalore to be with him. And yeah, I mean, she's a bit worried about married life. And bear in mind, this is set in 1920, 1921, something like that. So it's still in the days of the Raj and the British Empire, the British occupation of India, which Nagendra never tires of telling us. And that for me was a negative point in the book. I'm certainly not an apologist for the British Empire or British actions in India, but I did feel that she mentions it a lot to the point where it becomes kind of gratuitous and a little bit kind of grandstanding, which did put me off a little bit. However, as I say, it follows this kind of husband and wife duo as they race to solve a mystery. She's worried that she's going to be condemned to a life of kind of boring, uh, boring married life, where she's just going to have to stay at home and run the house. Yeah, Kaveri is a very well-educated young woman. She's something of a maths prodigy, and you know she's having to study for her maths exams and things on the quiet. But luckily, her and her husband attend a banquet, and fortunately, someone at the banquet gets murdered, and she decides to get involved in solving that particular crime. Apart from the, as I say, rather overused anti-British sentiments throughout the book, the story itself was pretty good. The mystery was good. It kept me guessing to a point, but then I think the author somewhat maybe gave it away a bit too early on, so that when the reveal did come, it wasn't that much of a surprise. However, I am willing to make allowances for the fact that it is Nagendra's first novel, and it was enjoyable enough that I will pick up the second, despite all the politics in it. And I suppose she was equally fair in her treatment of some so-called traditional Indian values, such as the caste system and things like that, which she was against. You could tell from the writing. So I suppose that's fair. But overall, as I say, it's worth a read. I think Shelley enjoyed it probably more than I did, although she also guessed fairly early on who the culprit was. And I'll be intrigued if you read it yourselves whether you will be able to too. But as I say, I will definitely give it give the second book a shot. So that's the Bangalore Detectives Club by Harini Nagendra. Next up, we have a tried and tested series, and it's part of the Vishpuri series by Tarquin Hall, an Anglo-American writer who's married to an Indian lady, lives in India, I believe, and he started this series about this chubby, over 50s, mustachioed detective called Vishpuri. This book that I read is called The Case of the Love Commandos, and that's somewhat of a misnomer, I suppose, because the Love Commandos don't feature too heavily in the book. And yes, the Love Commandos are a real outfit. Now, this is set in modern day India, and he takes us quite, different parts of the country throughout the course of the series. The Love Commandos, if you are wondering, are a rather interesting group. They are a group formed to help young couples of different castes circumnavigate the traditional society and parental disgust that can come from maybe two people of two different castes wanting to be together. And as I say, someone set up this group called the Love Commandos, and they really do exist to help couples with such problems. Now, this one we follow kind of two or maybe three mysteries that go on throughout the book. One is a mystery that the indomitable Vishpuri is working on before the story actually begins, that of a jewelry heist. And then we have the case of a missing person and a murder, the murder of the missing person's mother. And then we have another case involving Vishpuri's mum, or Mummy G, as she's known. And she's a wonderful character, and her part seems to get bigger and bigger as the series progresses, because she's as I say, she's the main detective's mother, and she's always getting involved somehow or the other, despite her son's remonstrations. And in this, she gets involved with a theft that's carried out in a temple that she's on a pilgrimage to. Both books are full of food, actually, so don't read these books on an empty stomach. You will get hungry. And both books contain recipes at the back of the books, which is kind of cool, for the food that's mentioned within the books. Now, as I said, I absolutely adore Vishpuri. He's a character that I can come back to time and time again, and is a surefire remedy to pull me. And I would suspect if you like a bit of cozy mystery, I'm sure he would be able to pull you out of any reading slump you may find yourself in as well. Both were fun to a point. My preference, of course, does go to The Case of the Love Commandos, because it is funner. It's for me much more entertaining, much funnier, and but as I say, they are different. They're set in different times, and I think they take on different characteristics as to how or as to the type of India in which the stories are set. So there we have it, an Indian detective double for you. I recommend checking them both out. And you don't need to start the Vishpuri series in order. They can all be read as standalone books, but it's kind of fun, I think, when possible, to read in order. So you could go back and find the first book in that series, which is called The Case of the Missing Servant. And that's followed by The Case of the Man Who Died Laughing. And the third book in that series, before The Love Commandos, is The Case of the Deadly Butter Chicken. All three of them wonderful and much recommended. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. Do take care, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye for now.